Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to the Balance and Thrive podcast series. So, today we're going to be looking at how your trauma feeds your sugar addiction. All addiction hides pain, but what if this pain goes deeper than we think? How can what we experienced as a child cause us to crave sugar as an adult? Let's dive in. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Faria, a health, wellness, and nutrition coach. I have a specialism in insulin resistance coaching. I've also helped women balance their blood sugars, lose weight effortlessly, kill the sugar addiction, and have boundless energy. And this is all through my coaching program as a group or one-to-one. And I also like to use quantum and circadian principles in my approach. They have achieved these results without having to take supplements or calorie count, restrict their portions or any intense workouts. Alhamdulillah. And just before we begin, a short disclaimer. The information provided to you today is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose or cure. If you do have a serious medical concern, please reach out to a qualified practitioner. So for those of you who don't know, when we experience emotions, especially growing up, they can get stuck in our body. And what you might notice is as you start your health journey and you decide to say, for example, give up sugar, this has been your tool to self-soothe, or the thing that you have used for years and years to hide that pain. Now you've taken it away. In that moment, it can feel like these emotions that start to come up are attacking you. And this is a big reason why so many women cannot give up sugar or processed food, which are heavy in the rubbish carbs. Because it's literally the crutch that has held them up for years. And without it, they feel like they're going to collapse. Without it there, you have to experience or feel a side of you that you've kept hidden away. Now, even if you didn't grow up experiencing the major T type of traumas, it's important to realize that as a child, whether what you experienced was physical or emotional, or just a parent who wasn't fully engaged, the body will register that as the same thing. So anything where you did not get connection or understanding or a sense of safety or have an emotional unmet need, something you as an adult will then go on to not have closure on. And there's a saying which says, the issues are in the tissues. So now, when you've removed this self-soothing tool, it can give rise to these emotions and it can feel very overwhelming. For a large majority of people, this is something that they totally don't expect. And so when it does happen, it knocks them out for 6. And they find they go back to that self-medicating behavior because that feels more safe. Those emotions that they experience can be so scary. They tell themselves, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never giving up sugar or carbs or whatever behavior they are using to cover up that real pain. Most people don't even realize that their food or sugar addiction is just them simply trying to survive within their dysregulated nervous system. Now, at the core of an imbalanced nervous system is fear. And the body can only operate from one of two places: fear or safety. There is no middle ground. Whatever state that you are in will be the driver for your entire health, not just emotionally or mentally, but also very much physically. Now, the thing that spurred my interest in this area more so recently is understanding that these cues that the body takes in are not, for the most part, always from food. And it's actually cemented my belief that lifestyle changes are more important than the diet and exercise recommendations. And having witnessed firsthand what benefit someone can gain from creating a sense of safety in their body, I know that it's a vital missing piece in someone's health journey. Working with the nervous system and overcoming trauma cannot be just a talking exercise. Taking physical steps is also what's required. The thing to understand is that the nervous system is your central operating system. It's the main command center.
Wait. For 3:20. That's still 10 minutes.
Sis, your mic's unmuted.
Okay, listen, I will tell you.
Sorry. Taking physical steps are also what's required. The thing to understand is that the nervous system is your central operating system. It is the main command center. It's just like a computer that runs on code. The computer reads only those inputs and it gives you a very specific output. The thing to understand is that our code was downloaded into us growing up, and our inability to regulate our nervous system can be due to trauma. Since this is such a hot topic today, what exactly is trauma? Well, trauma is anything that for any reason at that specific time in our life overwhelmed us, and overwhelmed us in such a way that we were not able to process it at that time. It was just too much. We couldn't understand all of what was happening. We couldn't even process.
Okay. Why did you put the spoon away, Mum?
Sorry, ladies. So as we've just said, trauma is something that happens to us. And because of maybe our age, because of our level of understanding, we become very overwhelmed to the point that we cannot process it. We can't, at that age, obviously, understand everything that's happening. We couldn't even process the emotions that we are experiencing at that time. Anything, for any reason, at that time in our life, overwhelmed us. And so what happens is that you actually stop. There's a part of us that freezes right there because of that overwhelm. And you continue growing into an adult, but there's a part of us that's still maybe 5 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old. Those are the traumas that get stored in our body, and our body has a memory of them. And up until we are able to complete that experience, we carry that experience like a weight behind us. Now, because there were experiences of overwhelm, we think that if we were to let them open up, we would become overwhelmed again. But that's the only experience that we've had with them. You say to yourself, I shut down. I got overwhelmed. I lost control. So why would I want to open that up again? Why would I want to feel that way again? So what most people do is that they compartmentalize things. I almost think of it like packing it into a box, a shoebox. You put it into this shoebox, you close the lid, you wrap it up in some sellotape, and you make sure that that lid doesn't come off. And then you take it and you stuff it at the back of that cupboard. Now, there'll be times when you start cleaning out that cupboard and you see a glimpse of that box and you think, oh no. And you put everything back in again. You throw the clothes in, make sure it's covered, put it back in a mess, doesn't matter. You just don't want that box to come out. Now, when we actually start taking those steps to work on our health, and we look at things in our diet, and we look at things around us and we say, hey, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm having too much sugar, or maybe I'm eating too many carbs. We then have to remove these things, and it starts to open up the possibility that those things that are in this box will start falling out and come out and be opened up. And then we say to ourselves, no, that's what we've been trying so hard to not open up. Any of those feelings that start to creep into the body, that discomfort, that overwhelm, you do not allow it to happen. And instead, you go back to the sugar. I've got to bring back whatever it has been that I've been using to keep that trauma well hidden and well protected. But the thing is, when you're doing this, you don't allow your body to feel it. You don't allow yourself to achieve optimal health because you can't heal what you can't feel. And you carry that trauma with you for the rest of your life. And some people make that choice. Some people choose not to go there. And that is obviously something that you can choose to do. Because by and large, a lot of us have experienced some kind of trauma. And I would just ask this person, what do you want for your life? Do you want to carry that trauma, that weight of that trauma behind you, dragging you, holding you back for the rest of your life? You could do that if that's what you wanted. And the other choice would be to learn how to safely open it up. But it has to be done safely because otherwise it will overwhelm you and you will just keep putting it back and staying in exactly the same place as you are. And I do feel like in our communities, it is a bit of a taboo topic. It's a bit of a gray area where a lot of people don't want to go. And maybe that comes from the fear of like what's going on, what's going to come up. Maybe it's not wanting to have negative feelings towards parents or relatives. Or maybe it's because there's some guilt there. You know, it's something that you're experiencing. And it's the idea even that some people have that, well, look, I've got to this stage of my life. It hasn't affected me. It hasn't harmed me. So what's the point of opening up that box now? Sugar has worked in being able to numb this, right? And for the large majority of people, they don't do it because they don't have the tools to deal with opening that box. But now, if you did have the tools, it's a game changer. As anything that comes out, you have exactly the right way to deal with it. And you don't just have one tool, there's a number of tools. You could be prepared for whatever's about to come out. And that's a way to keep things manageable so that even though it's uncomfortable, it's still manageable. And that is actually the secret to safely opening up areas of trauma that is stuck in our body. One of the biggest positives in helping people overcome this is because if it's left unresolved, this trauma starts to appear as physical ailments. And this has actually been known in the medical world since about 1995, when there was the famous ACE study was carried out, which is the adverse childhood effect. This looked at around 17,000 people. And what they found was that there was a connection between childhood maltreatment and negative health outcomes as an adult. That experience as a child gets stored in the autonomic nervous system, right? In your central command center. And it's like, if you think about it, like the main electrical board in your house, right? Where you have all those switches, right? It sets the tone for everything. It becomes your operating system. And you are at all times either moving towards health and happiness and wholeness, or you're moving towards symptoms, disease, diagnosis even. And we understand the mechanism of this now. A lot of the changes that happen when trauma gets stored in the nervous system is that it increases oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress has been looked at as one of the markers of nervous system imbalance. We're talking about actual physical changes that happen on a cellular level that then creates these diseases and diagnoses. And oxidative stress is a major factor of that. It's actually a result of the inflammation that's caused by trauma. It's a result of the toxins that your body invites when you have stored trauma. It's a result of the sleep issues that you have when you have stored trauma, the digestive issues, the brain inflammation, as evidenced by things like brain fog and decision fatigue. These are all the things that are downstream effects of stored trauma in the body. And they are what will prevent someone from progressing further on their healing journey. And so that is why it is not going to be enough to just go to therapy. We have to address these areas in which trauma has affected our biology. We have to be addressing the inflammation, the oxidative stress, the toxins. If you actually want optimal health and the best health outcomes, it's not something that you can ignore. And so the link here between why people get addicted to sugar or carbs or food is because it's covering up something that they are not willing to address. The opposite of addiction is connection. This is the very thing that was craved, even needed, and not provided as a child. And then maybe for some people, even again as an adult. It's the thing that's missing from people's lives. And so they turn to other things to fill that void. And the biggest lack of connection is the connection that you have with yourself. Most people haven't got their mind and body connected at all. As you know, if you've tuned into previous episodes, I like to give you ladies practical tools to implement. So what is the first step in helping people address their nervous system imbalance? It's the feeling of safety. And this isn't just to say to yourself, I feel safe. Because for a lot of people, they don't even know what that is, because it's not something that they've ever felt. They've always had something to self-soothe, sugar being the main one. So we don't even know what our body feels like when it's not on that substance. That substance is there to provide us some sense of safety, even though it's a false sense of safety, because it's just a mask. It's just there to numb the pain. And numbness doesn't mean safe. It means you're numb. And yet what you're thinking is, well, if I don't feel anything, then I don't feel the fear. So we're using it to not feel the fear, but that doesn't mean that we feel safe. Now, yes, there are exercises that you may have heard people talk about to help to start to release things like this that are stored. And see, the thing with talking therapy that I think is not ideal for some people, well, probably a large majority of the people, is that you're sitting there maybe 50, 60 minutes talking things out. And that can be too much all in one go for a lot of people. So what I've started to do in my program, as I learn this and get trained in nervous system regulation, is I've started to introduce a few things that can be done in 10 minutes to help open this up very slowly. And along with this, I provide my clients physical things to implement to help bring about that feeling of safety should they start to feel overwhelmed. Along with this, the biggest step in harnessing the feeling of safety, which I feel that trauma-informed practitioners are not mentioning, is this. It's your relationship with light. And by that, I mean natural and artificial. And you've heard me go on and on about this. And that's because its impact is so misunderstood and so underrated. But what you have to understand is that this is what feeds information into our internal environment. So for example, if the very first thing that you do when you wake up is go on your phone, that's the very first signal that your body gets every single day. What is that signal? It's a huge dose of artificial blue light from your phone. Way too bright compared to what is actually in your natural environment. Coupled with that, you might read some news or some distressing information or something that's overwhelming on social media. That immediately heightens cortisol, which then puts your system on alert. And this has the same impact when you are bathing yourself in artificial light at night. The body does not know what time of day it is then. And it doesn't get now the signals to help you prepare for sleep. Rather, it's doing the opposite. And instead of creating those feelings of safety, it's creating a feeling of chaos. So along with very detailed ways to help start healing your nervous system, lifestyle changes need to be on point too. And I've noticed this with my clients before I even started introducing anything specific to do with trauma or nervous system regulation. They were doing the lifestyle changes alone, and they were having those mental and emotional shifts. And that's why I stand by them being the foundational step in dealing with nervous system imbalance, because lifestyle changes heal you from within. So ladies, as always, be proactive, not reactive. Jazakallah khair for being here today in the live session, and I hope that you gained benefit from it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.